We are less than 2 weeks away from Election Day, and more than 2 million people have already voted in North Carolina. From absentee ballots to how safe in-person voting is, many of you have questions. Guilford County Board of Elections Director Charlie Collicutt is here with us to answer those questions, and you can text us your questions 336-379-5775. Remember, only text these questions. You cannot call. And although Charlie is from Guilford County and he will answer lots of the questions from Guilford County, you can answer pretty much statewide as well with many of these questions. For instance, someone was first texting, is there a box where absentee ballots are just simply dropped off? And there are no like drop-off boxes, but there are ways for people to drop their absentee ballots in.
Right. So there's not an unaccompanied drop box when you come to the Board of Elections office or when you come to an early voting site. You will still have to give your ballot to somebody because we do have to do some logging of that and some chain of custody documentation. But then it does get deposited into a locked box, either at the Board of Elections office or at an early voting site.
All right, so unlike other states, there is no just drop boxes that you just put it in there and nobody checks. You have to actually either go to the Board of Elections to drop it off in person, or you can drop it off at any early voting site, and that is statewide as well.
That's correct.
And the only thing that you can't do is drop it off at the polls on Election Day.
That's correct. We need to be real careful that we're talking when you drop it off at the Board of Elections office or an early voting site, not on Election Day.
Okay, this person is asking, do you need a witness if you take your ballot to the early voting poll?
Yes, if you take an absentee ballot just to simply drop it off at early voting, you have to complete it the same way you would as if you were going to mail it. You have to sign it, you have to get a witness with their printed name and address. If you don't have that when you get to the early voting poll, then I would suggest you just not use that absentee ballot and you just go ahead and vote early while you're there.
Okay, and this is kind of a follow-up question. This person says, what if you mailed your ballot, but you didn't put it in the confidential envelope? Should you go and vote at the polls?
Yeah, if you mailed a ballot just in a regular envelope, if you did not use our included envelope, then that ballot cannot be counted and you will need to either request another one or go to the polls Election Day or early voting, because that envelope has some places that the voter and their witnesses have to sign.
That's a really good point on that one. All right, let's talk about this. We've gotten several emails about something happening at the Lewis Recreation Center where there was some curbside voting and then people thought for some reason their vote didn't count. Can you tell us what happened there?
Yeah, this is it's kind of an issue when we have a lot of technology going on. Some voters showed up to vote at Lewis Recreation. They cast their paper ballots into the system and everything was fine. We have their signed authorizations, their signed applications. Those voters are fine. If that was you on that day, it is nothing to be worried about at all. And the reason what concerned these voters was that when they went to go check the websites that can show if you voted or not, they didn't see their name, and it was a very simple data process where that computer from curbside, we just didn't get the data packets uploaded timely to our central database. We have them now. And so there is no issue with those voters at all. And I would say if that was you on that day, or if you voted at Lewis, don't worry, don't go vote again. It is illegal to vote twice because you did sign the poll book, the application, and you did cast your ballot.
All right, so this is a follow-up question then. If you do go to early voting, or let's say you did an absentee ballot, how soon should you be able to check to see on Ballot Tracks where your ballot is?
Right, so early voting does not show on Ballot Tracks. Those voters are going into their their voter record on the State Board of Elections website, and they can see that they have voted. When the vote is received, such as an early vote, they can see that it's been accepted. So that should happen within a business day or two. Again, it's making sure those electronic transactions happen, even though we do have the ballot in the system. Ballot Tracks, it's sometimes hard to know. The ballots, if we're doing a good job of when those ballots get there on that day, we can get Ballot Tracks updated. But sometimes Ballot Tracks has a lag in when we note that a ballot has been accepted to when Ballot Tracks updates their data. So it's hard to know, but I would give it a couple of business days just to make sure that Ballot Tracks can keep up with our activity.
All right, and so just to clarify, Ballot Tracks is for absentee ballots only. If you want to say, hey, I went to early voting and I want to make sure that it really was counted, you just go on the North Carolina Board of Elections site?
Yeah, and there's a place where a voter can do like a self lookup of their own voter record, and that's on there. And that may not happen immediately either, because again, we're having to get hundreds of laptop computers updated at the same time, and sometimes that there can be a lag there too.
Okay, so maybe just give it 24 hours or something like that to be able to see if that's there.
Right, but if you voted, if you put that ballot in the tabulator, that ballot's in the tabulator.
So someone was asking, you do put the vote in the tabulator. Is that hooked to the internet? Is there a way for anyone to tamper with that? How safe is that?
Right, it is not connected to the internet. That was it's never been connected to the internet, and it does not have any modem technology inside that tabulator at all. When the ballot goes in, it is tabulated and the data is stored in that unit. We do not pull the data off that unit until election day, and the ballot drops into a hopper down below. And every night those ballots are taken out, sealed up, and delivered and stored in the vault at the Board of Elections office.
Gotcha. So the votes are counted so that people know how many people went to early voting, but they don't know how they voted. They're not actually tabulated.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. That's good to clarify. All right. We're going to continue to answer your text questions. You can text us at 336-379-5775. We'll be right back.